Oh, hey there, fellow Questers. Welcome to Metaverse Adventures. My name is Immersive Matthew. Today is July 6th, and this is your Oculus Quest Week in Review. And this week, like always, we're going to jump in right up front and talk about Quest hype cycle. Lots to report on that, plus a whole bunch of new comparison points that you might find very interesting. We're then going to talk about game updates that have come out this past week. We'll then jump over and look at a whole pile of sideload things that have been going on. We'll look at experience and other apps outside of gaming. We'll then look at what's coming soon. We'll then jump over to the community, and there's lots of cool things to report on this week in the community. And then finally, we'll end this week on some hardware updates for your Quest. So stay tuned. All right, my fellow Questers, let's get right into the Quest hype cycle and start off by talking about Google Trend data as we do each week. And as you know, I've been reporting on the Oculus Quest, the Oculus Rift S, and the Valve Index. And I started doing this way back on beginning of May when at F8, the Quest got announced, and at the same time, actually, the Rift S and the Valve Index. And as you can see in the data back then, they all peaked. But it was only the Quest that didn't drop nearly as much thereafter. The hype continued to remain strong. And then, of course, on the 21st of May, the hype went off the charts. And since that time, it has slowly petered down. And over the last few weeks, it's more or less maintained the same levels with a slight decrease overall. It's interesting to see this data. And of course, this past week, the Valve Index finally got released. So you can see here in the data that it got its little bump. And again, it's dropped back down. We'll have to see what happens with the index. There's some interesting reviews out there for those of you who are following that particular device. It's not one that interests me. I'm really looking for something that's wireless and totally portable, and that's why I'm so into the Oculus Quest. And of course, last week I compared the Quest to the Switch just to give us all a bit of a grounding on how does this space compare to mainstream console space. And as we know, the Switch is significantly higher than the Quest, but not by orders of magnitude. In fact, back on the 21st, the Oculus Quest was only about half of the hype of the Nintendo Switch. Now, the Nintendo Switch has had higher highs than that, almost double that again. However, it does sort of put the Nintendo Switch and the Oculus Quest in a similar sort of area. And I don't know what's going to happen towards the end of the year when we hit Christmas. I suspect both of these consoles, both the VR console for the Quest and the Nintendo Switch console, will both increase. But it's hard to say where they're going to end up at the end of the year. And when you compare the Quest to other VR offerings, it's clear that the Quest is by far the leading VR platform, at least in terms of interest by people going to Google worldwide and searching for these terms. So I compared this week's Quest to, of course, the usuals, plus I'm going to look at Labo, you can see that here, and it's no comparison. HP Reverb, also very little to compare. Samsung Odyssey, Samsung Gear VR, the HTC Vive Cosmos, which is getting a little bit of buzz, but you can see here it's, again, very, very weak in comparison to the buzz around the Quest. The HTC Vive Focus, not doing too much there either. The Pimax, the Google Cardboard, and you can see that all of these platforms really are quite a bit lower. The only ones that are really competing would be PSVR, the Oculus Rift S, and the Valve Index. But all of those other platforms are significantly less than the Quest. The Quest is really head and shoulders above all other VR platforms right now, at least in terms of searching. And so this is a strong leading indicator to the demand that we're seeing for this new platform. When we head over to Amazon Top 100 video game charts, we've been seeing some similar data. Strong sales for the Quest. In fact, the Quest has been in the top 100 all the way back since March 1st when pre-orders began, and it stayed there consistently. Now, as you know, the 128 gigabyte model did fall off the top 100 a few weeks back when quantities started getting tight. In fact, there was shipping times of 1 to 2 months for quite some time. Well, this week, I'm happy to report that stock is back in, or sort of, we'll get there in a second, and now both devices are back on the top 100 again. The 64 gigabyte model is in the 94th position, And the 128 gigabyte model this week is at the 77th. So that's its return to the top 100. And now what's interesting here is over the last few weeks, it's been the 128 that's been out of stock, but now it's the 64 gigabyte model that's out of stock, and the 128 gigabyte model is shipping on July 18th. So that's a bit of a surprise and a total turnaround in inventory. Don't know what's causing this. Maybe it's demand for 64 is just really increasing. Or maybe Oculus just didn't make enough of the 64 because they're focusing on making more 128s to catch up to that demand curve. Now, not all is great because some users over on Reddit are complaining about Amazon shipping and that they're having some problems. User LuckDunk ordered a Quest for Amazon about 2 weeks ago, and just this past Friday morning, they got an email from Amazon saying that it's now out of stock and that they can't even ship it by the date that they said they would. So all of a sudden, he has the opportunity to cancel his order and go elsewhere or wait. And there's no dates on Amazon.com about when they anticipate the 64 gigabyte model to be back in stock. And this week, Metaverse Adventure subscriber E780 ordered their Oculus Quest on the 25th from Amazon, and it was not really supposed to even arrive until July 12th, but suddenly it came on June 28th. So it just seems like some people aren't getting their Quests and they're getting canceled, while others are getting their Quests sooner than anticipated from Amazon. So I don't know what's going on. Obviously, Amazon's having some inventory problems, and what I'm guessing here by looking at other people's posts on Reddit, that it really is dependent on what region you're in. Where in the United States, where in Canada, where in Europe, and other parts of the world really has a big impact on the availability of the Quest on Amazon.com. But the good news is stock is flowing somewhat. On Oculus.com right now, the 64 gigabyte model is shipping by July 24th, and the 128 gigabyte model ships a little sooner on July 18th. So it does seem like the best place to get this is still over on Oculus, especially since we haven't heard a lot of people saying that they just didn't get their Oculus Quest when ordered. It seems like they're delivering a little more consistently than Amazon. So just be aware, you may have some delays if you order on Amazon today. And if you haven't ordered with Amazon right now and you got a similar email, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your experience as well, whether you got it or it got delayed. On the game side of things, there's not a lot to announce this week as there are no new Quest games in the store. However, there are a couple updates and an awesome deal that I want to put on your radar. Let's jump into the deal first. There's a game called Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes by Still Create Games. And if you go in the Oculus store right now, it's $14.99. However, if you head over to Humble Bundle, you can get the game for $5. Now, you got to make sure you choose the Oculus code and not the Steam code when you're making the purchase. And you don't get to choose that until after you've made the purchase. But once you do, because it has cross-buy and you're buying it for the Rift, you can now go ahead and install it for free on the Quest. So if that's a game that interests you, this is a heck of a great deal for $5. And it gets a 4.7 on the Oculus Quest store. And so you can see right out of the gates that this is a high quality title that, if you look at the comments on forums and whatnot, it's getting a lot of good buzz about this game. And it's a great party game with family and other members. And it's just a lot of fun. Now, I've tried this in the past. I have not tried it on the Quest yet, but at $5, I think this is one that I'm also going to pick up. So links on how to get that deal below, straight to the Humble Bundle page. And the only game this week to talk about is Sports Scramble. They came out with a live update, so if you own the game, you've already got an update to it. And this one actually fixes a number of key issues that people were having with the game. It has significantly reduced load times, and if you recall, there's a lot of waiting in that game. They've also fixed the game from randomly crashing and restarting, so that's a nice fix. I had that problem myself when I was playing it a few times. They've added a quick start option that bypasses the tips of the day and all that sort of stuff so you can get straight into a game faster. And they've even allowed you to skip all the announcements that happen. You have to watch the announcer once for each type of match that you play, but once you've done that, you can skip it thereafter, which is a real awesome feature because I must admit, hearing that announcer say the same thing every time we just want to get back into the game was rather annoying. So I'm really glad the developer is making an effort to improve this game. And they also increased the multiplayer stability. So nice additions. Unfortunately, no new content. And I know they've been rumored to bring a bunch of other sport titles to Sports Scramble, but nothing as of yet. So we'll keep our eye to the ground on this one. All right, side load this week. Don't have a lot to cover in this section either. There's still a lot going on. And I guess the first story we're going to talk about right up front is a game that you can go and download right now for free or by giving a donation on Patreon. There's one called DogCorp from a developer named Henley Shelton. And Henley posted this week over in the Oculus subreddit all about his game, and he told us all that you have to basically have a minimum of 3 meter by 3 meter play space in order to play this game. That's about 9 feet by 9 feet. Now the reason why that is that levels are actually designed with that size in mind, and they don't scale down, and they don't go any bigger than that. So as long as you have at least that much space, you can play this game. And this is a game where you have one goal in mind, and that is to get your dog back. And you can see from the video, it has a lot of interesting flair to it and some interesting gameplay mechanics. He continued to say on Reddit that the game is coming out on the 6th, so that's today, it's available, and it's going to be for free. However, if you want to donate to his Patreon, and when you go to download it, it gives you that option, you can go ahead and do that as well. And when I look today, July 6th, he's only making 18 bucks a month. So if you download this game and you think it's something that you like, go ahead and throw a few bucks his way and get that value up a little higher, because 18 bucks is nothing for someone who's poured their love and attention into a game. If you like this game, not only go ahead and maybe send some money his way through Patreon, but go ahead and make note of it on the Oculus Quest subreddit and let the world know that you love this game and that you would like to see it officially in the Oculus Quest store. That will really help the developer out. Another game you can sideload right now is one called Deisim. Now, Deisim was put on my radar this week by YouTuber RealVR Gamer, who has a great video on not only how to play it, but how to sideload it with all the instructions, linked below. The game is made by Tommy Melotro, and I might be pronouncing that incorrectly, I'm sorry. And in this game, as you can see in the video, you get to be a god, and you get to first off build your world by modifying and manipulating the terrain. And then you get to work with the people, the little humans in that world, and you can either help them evolve, or you can punish them for their sins. If this game sounds somewhat familiar, you're probably right. There was a game back in the day called Populous, and another one called Black and White, were also sort of the same sort of style. But I have not tried one of these in VR, so this is one that's on my radar to go and sideload right away. Now, the Oculus Rift version, already out in the Oculus store, it gets a 4.3 out of 5. And so if this is something that interests you, these sorts of games, highly recommend to go and check it out. All links are in below, like I said. Great instructions and a video to give you an idea of how to do it all. And the last SideQuest story this week is about how to do wireless SideQuest. Now, as you know right now, in order to put SideQuest games on your Quest, you have to plug it in via the USB-C connection. Well, there is a way to go ahead and configure it wirelessly so you can do all this without ever having to plug it in. Now, the first setup, you got to go through the USB, but once you're past that, you're fully wireless. Now, this is a little bit of a technical instructions. It's not going to be for all of you. But if you're into that, go ahead and look below for the links on this. The instructions come from Pixel Pusher, and there's some pretty good instructions there that are step-by-step with all the things you need to do. Similarly, Metaverse Adventure subscriber Jamie Can noted that he's been able to get it configured using Oculus TV to download things to the Quest. So again, you got to do a little bit of setup via the USB-C, but once you're done that, you can go into Oculus TV, go to SideQuest, and then from there, choose APKs you want to install, and because of this back-end work that you've done, it will automatically, through the Wi-Fi connection, install that right in your Quest. So you can actually install SideQuest now right from within your Quest without ever having to go to your PC. So this is pretty cool. And again, both of these instructions, the links are all below, are rather complicated. I don't think they're for everyone, but if you're comfortable with command line prompts and following step-by-step instructions, then this is something that I would encourage you to do because it really makes sideloading a whole heck of a lot easier. And this week's experiences and apps, I've got a couple lined up for you. The very first one is another one of these web VR apps called Track VR. And this was put on my radar this week by Reddit user BlueZima2, who said that it was just an awesome experience. So I went ahead, loaded up the Oculus browser, browsed over to the URL below, and you'll see the link for Track VR below. It's a website that's run by Little Workshop from France, and it is a really cool sort of techno music, very visceral sort of designs and patterns as you can see here. And it's something that if you're into music and just kind of chilling out in that space, this is a really neat one to do. And a couple other users made note that if you actually go over to webvr.directory, also linked below, you can browse many other WebVR applications like this, and a whole plethora of others. And some of them I've mentioned on here before, like moonrider.xyz, and a whole pile of others. So if you're interested in WebVR and want to get more out of your quests and for free, this is a great place to go explore. Point your browser there inside the Oculus Quest and go explore the content. And the next app I want to talk about is one called Tribe XR. It's a DJ school type simulation where you get literally DJ kind of club level gear, you know, CDJs and Pioneer and the mixers. They're not branded, but they look exactly the same with all the knobs in exactly the same place. This is something that you've always wanted to do. I recommend it. This week, they've now prototyped a sample pad. So you can do even live sampling and drum machines and sound effects to your sets. So this is getting pretty powerful. I mean, that kind of a setup, as you see here with that level of gear, you're into the thousands of dollars. And now, for free, because that's right, currently it's in a alpha state, and you just go to their website, link below how to get there, and you can go and request an alpha key, and you can try it out for yourself. This is a very cool app. Now, I used to do club level DJing, and so I haven't done it for 2 or 3 years now, so when I fired up this app and I saw the CDJs there, and they're exactly the same, and they worked exactly the same, I was really blown away. In fact, I kind of want to do a set in VR in a club with my headset on while I'm DJing. I think that would be really cool. But if that's something that interests you, go check it out. Links all below on how you can go ahead and get access. And this week, Bigscreen Beta gave us a new update. So if you already own the software, it's gonna auto-magically update for you. And this one includes some neat stuff, including a Bigscreen Home and a new secret product that they're gonna be launching. And we haven't heard what it is yet, so we should hear very soon, we've been told. Now, this particular update fixes a number of bugs, such as echoes that people have been reporting and the occasional crashing of the app. And what's exciting is in the same update, they mentioned that they're working on a couple other things, including a working IMAX theater inside of Bigscreen. So that's pretty cool. A whole new friend system inside of there. Plus, they're partnering with different Hollywood studios to bring out movie nights where you can buy a ticket and go see a movie premiere with others all in Bigscreen. So if you're a Bigscreen fan, great updates to you this week, and it looks like some pretty cool stuff on the horizon for you as well. This week's Coming Soon section has a number of cool games that are being announced for the Quest. The first one we're going to talk about is Spiderman VR. Now, you may have heard Spiderman VR this week because it got quite a bit of chatter in the news and that it was a pretty cool experience. A little crusty around the edges and, you know, not super polished. However, the web swinging apparently is really good. And so for the very first time in VR, you can swing around the city like Spider-Man. And so this one sounds pretty cool. Now, Sony's being a little tight-lipped on this one. They haven't actually said emphatically that they're bringing it up to the Quest. However, when Upload VR interviewed Senior Vice President Jack Zim about their game, they asked, is there any plans for the Valve Index? And his reply was, we have had a large and very positive consumer response to the launch, including a lot of requests for a Quest build. Burn! He didn't even answer the question about the Index. Just that there's a lot of people wanting it for the Quest. And I think this is powerful. This is another piece of evidence that the demand for the Quest is so high that this is all that Sony appears to be thinking about. Now, they didn't promise when this is going to come, but they are apparently considering it. But I would say based on the demand and how many people were like, why is this not on the Quest? Because Sony announced it this week saying it's available for all major platforms. But not really, because the Quest is actually also one of the major platforms and growing. And based on the data we saw today, it's the #1 search platform by a long shot in VR. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see Spider-Man VR on the Quest. And I hope that when it does come to the Quest, that they fix some of the things that people are finding a little crusty and unpolished. So let's hope. Another game that got announced this week is coming to the Quest is one called Elven Assassin. It reminds me a lot of the bow and arrow game inside of Steam's The Lab. If you ever tried The Lab, it's a series of little mini games that are showing off the HTC Vive when it first came out. And one of the best ones in there was their bow and arrow game. And it felt very, very real and accurate. That game, imagine, but with multiplayer. And in fact, you can get up to 4 of your friends all defending your castle against the orcs and the dragons with, of course, your bows. So great co-op game Right now, it gets a 3.7 out of 5 on the Oculus.com store for the Rift. Don't know how it's going to translate to the Quest. I'm hoping they can address some of the areas that weren't fantastic and get that score up into the 4s. So fingers crossed for this one. If you like bow and arrow games and co-op games, this is definitely one to keep your eye on. And over the last couple weeks, I've reported on a game called CRISIS VRigade. CRISIS VRigade. No one knows how to say this. In fact, there's a lot of slack on their Twitter page about the name, but apparently it's sticking. And this week, Sumo Lab developer announced that CRISIS VRigade 2 is coming to the Quest. Now, you may have heard me talk about CRISIS VRigade 1, because it's been a game that a lot of people have been sideloading over the last couple of weeks, and people are raving about it. Apparently, it is the time crisis or virtual cop of VR, and it's getting really good press all around. In fact, it's got quite a strong fan base if you go over to Oculus subreddit and just look up for this game. People love it. Now, one of the things that they released this week is the new trailer, and as you can see here, it has a very different style than the original trailer, which is a lot more cartoony. And some people sort of missed that cartoon look. They liked it, and then a more realistic look is getting mixed reviews. So we'll have to see what the developer does with that feedback, and there's quite a lot of vocal people on this front. However the game goes, this is one to definitely keep your eye out for if you're into sort of rail shooters and games, like I said, Time Crisis and Virtual Cop. Another game that's coming soon, and this one I did not see coming, is called Little Witch Academia VR Broom Racing. It's from a Tokyo development studio called Universe Incorporated, and they're taking Trigger's Little Witch Academia series, and they're bringing it to VR in this sort of broom racing experience. Now, they said they've got some cool technology that they've invented to make it so you can fly around in your broom and not get motion sick, so I'll be really curious to see what they've got going on there. But the whole game is really about creating your own avatar and entering the Luna Nova as a potential student. And you get to team up with other characters and try the bonding race. There's even going to be a multiplayer mode where you can pair it with other people and all race. This is pretty cool. Now, they've got a Kickstarter if you're into this. You can go and support them right now. As of today, July 6th, they're at 24% of their goal, and they've got 42 days remaining. If you're into anime-style games or you're really into the Little Witch Academia, this is one you might want to head over and throw a few bucks down and make a pledge. All right, and this week's community section is our biggest section, so we got a lot to cover here. And right off the top, we're going to go right over and talk about Reality Rebels again. Now, I have reported on Reality Rebels for the last 3 or 4 weeks in a row because they've been showing off their new Collocation application that allows you to map out a play space, and then it procedurally generates a level that fits that play space, and you can invite other people into that play space, and you can all share that experience. So the potential here is really enormous. And like I've said the last couple of weeks, this, I believe, is the Oculus Quest killer app. It's the only system right now that can really do this because there's no wires, you can't get tangled. So you can really have multiple people all in the same space interacting in a physical space. So this has mind-blowing potential. And this week, they showed us one more video where now they've implemented an elevator, which is something that's really going to be able to take your home and give you multiple floors to explore and really expand the space so that 2 people can traverse in that together. You know, you traverse into the elevator, it goes up to another floor, and as you can see in this video, from floor to floor, same layout, but because they're able to change the geometry just a little bit, it really does make the space feel very different. And so these guys are really doing something special. And as I've reported on, I've emailed them and we're in touch, and I'm looking to get a hold of some alpha code and something they are considering. In fact, they're considering it, making it more broadly available at some point. So as soon as I hear more on this, I'm gonna let you all know because this is absolutely something that I know I want to try in my household. Also in the community this week, user SOS49er came up with a really great Oculus Quest frequently asked questions list. And I'm not going to go over the points here, but if you've got some kind of questions about the Oculus Quest, you want to know a little bit more about it, what does sideloading mean, you know, what are some of the issues that people have had, this is the place to go. The link is below. Go ahead and check out. SOS49er put a fair amount of work into this. Plus, if you go ahead and read all the comments, there's even more details that you can flush out if you're so interested. And this week, user The Suit on Metaverse. And this week, Metaverse Adventure subscriber, The Suit, went ahead and posted a really cool video of his case. He's calling it the epitome of Oculus Quest cases. And as you can see here, this thing is pretty robust. In fact, it's the kind of case that I would expect a pro esport person flying across the country to do their Oculus Quest challenges would probably be bringing with them. This thing is going to protect your gear, and he's done some pretty cool things by even taking out some of the cardboard packaging that came with the Quest and use it as inserts into the case to get everything fitting in there nice and snug, even the batteries. So this is a really nice community effort, and I really love seeing people making their own homegrown stuff to protect their Oculus Quest treasure. Also in the community this week, OrbusVR created a much needed quick start guide. And really the number one thing we've heard from OrbusVR community is that it's a little bit hard to get into. Great community, great game when you get into it, but when you first enter the world, it's a little overwhelming. It's a lot of options, a lot of things you have to know and do in certain order. And so the OrbusVR team has put together a 6-minute video that you can go check out. Link is below. And it's a fantastic overview of pretty much everything you need to know to get in the game and get yourself started and get into some awesome adventures and build your character. So if you're an OrbusVR wannabe and you're just kind of afraid to jump in, or you've jumped in and got intimidated, maybe go and check this out and then give yourself a second try. And another really cool video in the community this week that I want to put on your radar is one by a user by the name of I Have a Crush on Mercy. And what they've done is they found themselves some 180-degree VR videos through YouTube VR. They've loaded it up on their Oculus Quest, and they've got it on their treadmill and ran through a virtual sidewalk. In this particular video, it's in the south coast of England around Brighton, and you can see that you can well imagine that if you were here, you would also feel like you were running down that very sidewalk. And it's just saying that's a great way to exercise, and it really passes the time. And as you probably know, or maybe not be aware, there is a ton of YouTube videos just like this that you can go and explore through forests and beaches and towns. So if you've got a treadmill and you're kind of interested in this, go ahead and check the links below, VR treadmill that you can look for. And let me know how it is if you try it. Go ahead and comment below if you've tried this yourself. Another really cool application that popped up in VR this week is one that tests to see if you may have Alzheimer's, sort of an early detection tool. This comes from a user by the name of F. Tarnagle, and I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly, but apparently they are a psychologist, and they also have basic programming and development skills. Now, they've developed some apps before, one in particular called Phobos, which is an open source platform to treat people with common phobias. You can probably imagine what that might be like. And now they're focusing all their effort on making this new VR application to detect Alzheimer's. And so it's going to be free. It's going to be coming out shortly, and it's going to be developed in WebVR. So you don't need to do anything other than go to the Oculus browser and a web address. This is one for sure to keep your eye open for. In fact, this whole space is so interesting. I'm sure we're going to hear about lots of these sort of surprise applications. And heck, if it helps diagnose our health and improves the quality of our life, and that's what VR brings to the table in the Oculus Quest, I think this is just fantastic for the adoption of VR. And the last story that I want to share in the community section this week is one about myself, Metaverse Adventures. You may have noticed that just yesterday, I posted a brand new video and a whole new series, separate from my news, called In the Play Space. And I recorded In the Play Space in 180-degree stereographic VR. And you can go and view it right now. And what's really cool is that you can actually be in my house. It feels like you're sitting in my house looking at my play space. And I recorded this with a camera that I actually invented back in 2014. It was one of the very first VR cameras to come out. And while I didn't get a chance to commercialize it, I just don't have those kind of funds to patent it, I did have a lot of fun making video content with it, both commercial content and free content. I've done thousands of hours of VR video. And so I'm so happy to bring that technology today to my channel. In fact, it didn't even occur to me until just this week that I could do it. And so I put that video out. If you like that video and that kind of content, do let me know, because I am considering upgrading my camera from the quality where it's at today, which is really designed originally for the DK1 to DK2. And as you know, the technology has improved quite a bit since then. And so there's an opportunity here for me to upgrade the resolution and get even a better picture than what you see today. But if you have a Quest, go check it out. Just go to YouTube VR and you can download it right away. It's easy to get, it's free. And then just go to my channel and find any video that begins with VR 180. That's how you know that's a video that you can go and watch. And you just sit down and you will just be transported right into my living room, right in front of my play space. So go check that out if that's something that interests you. And let me know in the comments if you want more VR content from me. All right, the last section this week is hardware, and we've got two stories for you here. The first one is about the Oculus Quest earbuds. Now, you may have heard about the Oculus Quest earbuds because they got a little bit of drama when they first came out. So here they are here. The idea is that they plug into either side of your Quest. There's actually two headphone jacks in, and you got one for your left and one for your right ear. The problem is they were both playing the left ear music. No matter which way you put them in, it didn't matter. You'd only ever hear the left channel. And apparently it was just an error in manufacturing when it came to the wire. The specs were wrong or someone goofed. And so Oculus gave everyone who bought those a $30 credit in the store and are going to be shipping out new headphones. And I got my email this week saying that it's en route. I got my tracking number, so I hope to see it here next week. I'm excited about that because I must admit, I don't like the other headphones I have. They're a little bit more inconvenient with extra wires. These are nice and short and they just sort of, plug in and go right to your ear with not a lot hanging down. They're not my most favorite headphones and the quality is okay. I wouldn't say it's spectacular. And if you look over in the Oculus subreddit, some people say it's terrible. Some people say it's fantastic. So I think it really all depends on you. I found them quite decent and they're really good at blocking out sound so you don't really hear the rest of the environment around you if that's something that you're interested in. I really do hope Oculus brings out sort of clip-ons that go over your ear, not in your ear, because I know a lot of you don't like things in your ear. And frankly, these are a little bit of a pain to put on. You gotta put your Quest on and then you're gonna find that dangling cable and put it in your ear. It's not great. And then if you forget to take them out when you take your Quest off, it's really rude when you pull them off and they just kind of yank out of your ear. Such an awful feeling. But however, if you do want good quality audio, this may be the way to go. There are definitely better solutions out there that are less expensive. So do your homework before you buy. But for the price they end up costing me with my credit, it's like 10 or 12 bucks. I think at the end of the day, this is definitely worth it for me. The last story here I actually had to re-record, and this is why I'm talking to you now, is because after I recorded it, I realized that maybe there's more going on than meets the eye. The story was about how some users are putting a piece of tin foil in their battery compartment near the positive terminal so that it makes better contact, because the theory is that when you swing your touch controller hard, that it might actually end up losing a contact there due to centrifugal force, and that the piece of tin foil will help keep the battery a little more snug against that positive terminal. Well, since that time, I've done a lot of more experimentation. And I learned that while that may indeed be a problem for some people, the battery jostling around, because you do feel it when you swing hard, sort of move in its container, in its tray, there's also for sure an issue with how fast you swing. Now, this is a complicated topic and definitely very controversial, but if you want to go over and check out my video, I have a lot more details on what I'm doing, and I have a two-part series. The first one explores the battery, and then I do a follow-up in part 2 where I talk about actually the speed of the swing having an impact on tracking. And this is not the end of it. There's going to be a part 3 where I'm going to do a lot more experimentation and really try to track down what is going on. And then, of course, as you know, Oculus is going to be releasing new code soon for the Oculus Quest to increase its performance in tracking. So when that happens, I'll have to redo these tests and see if that new code made any difference. Thank you for making it this far through the news. I really hope you enjoyed this week. Lots of news, as always, to cover. Next week's episode is going to be on July 13th. Another full one for you, no doubt. Lots going on. If you get a chance to go over and check out my VR video, let me know how tall you think I am. That camera shoots to scale. So when I look in there, I look my size. And I gotta tell you, it is so weird looking at yourself, looking at you in the eyes, and talking to you. Think about that for a moment. It's weird. And as the quality gets better, it's gonna be even weirder. So if you ever get a chance to film yourself in VR, I highly encourage you to do it and then go watch yourself because it is a trippy experience. And so I will see you in that video and we'll see you next week on the 13th. Bye for now.